Hey guys, welcome back.
Hey.
How you doing, Mike?
I'm good.
Long time no see.
We live together.
Now we do. That's new, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Really
it is
new.
now.
Yeah. No, I love it. How you guys been, by the way?
I'm doing pretty good.
Abby, you haven't been on since the penultimate episode. What have you been up to?
Well, I mean, during that episode, I was at Hawaii with my friend.
Nice.
And then I went to my best friend's wedding after that. And then after that, I just came back home and was working on like house stuff and just like reflecting on the year. Obviously, that's more towards December. I'm officially a mental health first aid instructor. So
Hey, what?
a mental health first aid instructor.
First aid instructor.
Yeah, mental health first aid instructor. It's this thing where we try to certify everybody so that they can help other people in need. Kind of try to help with the whole mental health crisis thing. So I did some training on that with work. Yeah, so just been chilling, hanging out with my dog.
What did you do through the end of last year?
That's all we need to know. Hanging out with the dog.
Benny's not here today.
No.
He was the fourth member of the squad, but he may not show up every episode now.
No.
He's on the wild side. Mike, how was the rest of your year?
It was good. Yeah, like we said earlier, we moved. Been kind of talking about that for like a while.
Forever.
For months, yeah.
Finally did it. Found a nice spot here. Anybody wants to come over, just let us know.
Yeah, we hosted multiple parties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're cool. We're hip.
It's definitely a bachelor pad
Yeah, so that
with
was
nice furniture.
It's been a nice learning experience, owning your own place and having to pay your own bills and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Like
so
an
that's
adult. Said like an
You're
adult.
finally growing up, Michael. How do you feel?
it's fun.
It's fun.
That doesn't sound fun at all.
Not really. But yeah, I'm also working at a new place now. Same job, but just a new company. So that's
Better
been good.
company.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think it's better.
Yeah.
It depends on what you want.
I guess.
I just needed, change of scenery, new people to meet. So
Worked
that's
out
really
well.
good. I've made, friends, been hanging out more. So
Did you
that's
get
been
that
good.
diversity that you wanted? I know that's why you wanted to change.
So, going to the bigger city to work, and it's closer to where I work to, or to where I live, because we also moved in Milwaukee. But yeah, so that's been good. Still, the same goals as I had first season.
Which is?
Getting to medical school, that process.
You have your
Also,
MCAT coming up.
Yep, that hopefully, stays on track. Also, aviation, working towards that.
Dude, yeah.
Also planning to go on a mission trip again to Papua New Guinea.
Ooh.
Dude,
Purposeful Radio. So we have a
Okay.
good group. I went with them a little over a year ago
Nice.
to Colombia. So
With
there's another trip.
AWR or
Mhm. Same group,
Nice.
same people. So hopefully do that again.
Dude, that's nice.
Yeah.
Doc, what are your plans for this year?
this year? Obviously continue working on my house. We're planning a girls' trip in May for my friend's birthday. If she ever plans the trip, we will go. I'll let you guys know if it leaves the group chat.
Why is she planning her own trip?
Because it was her idea, and we're all very busy. And in order for a trip to leave the group chat, someone needs to take initiative. And if she's the one that suggested it, she's the one with more skin in the game. She's the one that's going to actually probably plan it better.
Have you guys communicated this to her?
I have, yes.
Okay.
I'm really big on communication. So she said she's down for it. And then after that, she'll send us what she's got. And then after that, we'll talk about it. Go from there. And hopefully it leaves a group chat.
Where do you think she'll take you guys?
So we're going to go to the beach, which is going to be good. So we've
Dude, do
talked.
something original.
That is original. And you know what? I'm at the age where
We're Adventists. What do you want us to go do?
The beach is always a good time. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
Original is how you make it. And since we're all different, a beach trip looks different for everybody. So
It's true. I mean, I guess your last girls' trip was like in the Midwest, so it wasn't. Really
it was great. It was great. We went to the Apostle Islands.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
So
we'll be
nice.
going back this year as a
Yeah.
family this time.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, we usually go as a family on July 4th
okay.
weekend.
You want to come, Michael?
July 4th, my mom has got something for us.
Ooh.
Nice.
Fireworks,
That's right.
blow up
Nice.
stuff.
Nice.
Oh, so you guys do celebrate a holiday?
We just
Kidding.
I mean,
They just don't celebrate
we
Christmas.
just don't do
That's about
Christmas
it.
like that. Like, not anymore. That's the only one.
I'm just messing with you.
I think this year's going to be fun. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
What do you got?
What are you doing?
What am I doing? Working on this podcast. That's been taking up the majority of this month for me.
Oh, that's true.
And then this is going to go through April. And then in May, I also plan to go on a trip. It was supposed to be a boys' trip, but Michael is now going to Papua New Guinea,
Oh, yeah.
Mission first. Mission first.
which is fair.
Go
Yeah.
first.
God first.
But I'll be heading to Hawaii for my first time. So
Prepare to spend lots and lots of money
Yeah, that's what they tell me.
for simple stuff.
It's gonna be all right though. And then in July, I'm gonna go to Hawaii for like 10 days. At least that's the goal. And then sit for the month of June. Go to the family trip in July, and then after that, head out west again. I think I'm gonna do like one last big road trip. I think I'm gonna do 3 weeks this time. I'll do the Dakotas, Montana, and then the 2 states that I'm missing, which are Idaho and Wyoming. And then kind of circle back, and then I'll hit up Iowa too. Actually, I have some friends in Iowa I want to see, but I want to make sure I hit everything that I can for the summer, and then come back, hit up probably another season for the pod, and then if I have enough money at the end of the year, I want to go back to the Northeast. So I want to go to New Hampshire or Vermont for the fall colors again.
Oh, that'd be nice.
That would be so nice.
We were supposed to go last year,
Yeah,
but then I went to Hawaii.
and then
That was better.
You bailed. Yeah, it's all good. And then that's pretty much it. I'm what do you call it? Tracing down or cutting down my travel quite substantially, but I mean it's in the service of other things. So working on my business as usual, things like that. So I'm pretty excited about it.
There you go.
Nice.
But before we kind of get into the topics today that we're going to talk about this season, I kind of want to circle back. I mean, it's been like 3 months since we last sat down,
Is it
since our
that?
last episode. Our last episode was as it was at the beginning of October. So it's been
yeah.
all of December, all of
November, December.
Sorry, November, December, January, and then now it's February. I want to go over some of the conversations from last season to kind of recap for our new listeners.
Okay.
So each season is kind of structured in a way where it has a theme. So last season we talked about personal preparation. We either want to be an asset or somebody that brings good to others in the dating pool, or otherwise we're going to be a poison to the dating pool.
Yeah.
And as we know, poison can go far and wide, and we can hurt somebody, and then that person can hurt somebody, and then next thing you know, all because you decided not to work on yourself. So I felt that was kind of a priority to make sure that we talked about personal preparation first.
Set the foundation.
Yeah, set the foundation. In regards to that, personal preparation and development, how do you guys feel like you're doing in those areas now that we're a couple months removed from the episodes, and with the benefit of hindsight, would you say, in terms of like preparation for dating? Because Mike, you and I both said if we had the opportunity to date, we said we wouldn't because we just didn't really want to. Doc, you said you would, right?
I'm still in that mentality. I feel like mentally I am more purposeful in that.
As in before you weren't, or what?
I was, but it's just up the ante, you want it, and then now it's I want it even more.
Okay.
That type of thing.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't really that I didn't want to. It's just more I wasn't sure where I was going to end up. With everything that I, have in terms of goals. So it's just it was kind of more if the right person was there. And I don't know, the expectations were kind of laid out. But honestly, I feel like if I really wanted to, I could have been right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
but I keep, there's things holding me back. So,
Like what, if you're willing to share?
well, just, just not knowing where I'm going to end up, and with my goals and everything like that. Because
I was listening to this podcast earlier this week where it was talking about how he was like single and he was like wanting to find someone.
Yeah.
And he took like a mathematical approach to it, or like a behavioral science approach to it. And like he got really literal about like deciding what ages does he want to actively date in. And it was like from like 25 to like 30. And he's like, in this age range, I want to like put all into it, like dating apps, everything, down to a science where like he had to go on 3 dates per week.
Wow.
Type of thing, read lots of books. And it was interesting. It just got me thinking of like my range of like what years I want to actively be dating.
What was your conclusion?
Well, at least when I was thinking about it, mine would be like 27 to 30. So,
27 through 30.
So that's 3 years.
It's a really small window.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and it's not like rigid, but in the moment, that's the years that I came up with. So we'll see what happens. God has a plan.
I like that. God has a plan. Yeah. I mean, when it comes to like me, I feel like I've made some leaps and some bounds. I've had to do a lot of growing in the last couple months, specifically in regards to making sure that I finished my master's. Because that took a lot of discipline that I thought I had, but I did not have. So I had to rebuild that from scratch. And I ended up finishing in time, and that's all well. But that definitely helped me in, like, I guess, personal development. Making sure that, I guess, somebody was putting it on along the lines of like, that they want somebody who is a man of action, not a man of words necessarily. And I'm like, okay, I got to be about that action. When the rubber meets the road, it's really about that action, boss. We talked about, last season, we talked about the advantages or disadvantages, or I should say challenges of being single. Have you guys noticed any challenges or new advantages of being single during these last couple months, or advantages that you figured out? Because like for me, it played really well, the fact that I didn't have to give anyone attention during like while I was finishing my master's and like my what I call blitzkrieg.
So more focus.
Yeah, a lot more focus. And that's not to say that I wouldn't want to, but it played to my hand, the fact that I didn't have to.
Yeah, for me, nothing really has changed. It's just still been the same goals. I'm not closing the door to dating, or I'm not really leaving it wide open. It's just like whoever comes through, push the door, Yeah, just whoever, comes through the door, I'm just kind of let it happen. It has been hard, especially with this new job that I've had. There's, you're meeting more people, and, there's more, girls there, and, a lot of them aren't really religious. I would say most of them are probably, lead very different lives than I do, but they're still nice people. And so that's kind of been hard.
In what way?
Well, because, some of them are attractive, and I'm just like, let me see what's here, and I like to talk anyway. So it's just, I sometimes think like, is this something I should go for? And then I think back in my head, like, well, if I do go for this, what's the end goal? Am I going to waste my time? Or,
Her time.
could something good come out of it?
Yeah.
Or if I'm, with this girl and then I see another girl who's actually,
even cuter,
or even cuter, or Adventist that finally comes around in the state.
Don't hold your breath.
No, there's cute girls here, but I'm just like going back and forth in my head, like should I not, and I think that's what my struggle has been. So
no, it's real.
Yeah.
That kind of segues us into kind of the next topic that we talked about last season, which was waiting on God's timing, and how we talked about how the Bible, there's a lot of examples of how people were just either single or were just actively waiting on God. And when we talked about how praying for discernment was the way to go, do you feel like your patience in waiting for God's timing has been kind of the same? Do you feel like you're more desperate now, Abby, or are you like about the same?
No, I'm not desperate at all, because I feel like desperate comes from a place of weakness. I feel more calm now, actually. I've been applying more of, last season I spoke about like a crisis plan. So I have my own little plan of like, whenever I get like anxious about like, oh, it's not happening, or start thinking about like relationships and what it's going to look like and all this stuff, like I have a plan where like I recenter myself and like I talk to God about it. So I feel like the more I've practiced that actively these past couple months, it just like it's centered me more and has brought me closer to Him.
That's nice, actually.
You know, I have to admit, Jose knows this, but you don't. I've been on Adventist dating website.
You talk like that's contraband or something.
It kind of is, but because it's just the website, it could use a lot of work, and there's
sucks.
just some
It's garbage.
creepy. I don't want to put anybody out there, but there's just like some creepy guys on there, man.
Agreed.
So apparently, there's this feature where you can comment on somebody's like picture and profile. Mm-hmm. Why?
Well, even if you want
other
to,
apps have that too.
That's fine.
Dating
it's
apps is Myrna?
Yes.
Well, you don't
Where
really
you
see.
can comment and you can see other people's comments on
like
somebody's
that's the
picture?
only difference. You can't see.
There's no way.
You can't see them, but you
see the
can
comments.
So like we can see
But we
John
can see-
Smith
yeah.
commenting on Matilda's picture.
But it's not even that part. It's what they're
It's just
saying.
ridiculous.
It's what they're saying that's the problem, because some of these guys are just like most cringiest things. And some of these guys are like, 60, 70 years old, talking to these like 20-year-old girls.
Let me be
One
your
was a-
king.
One was a
It's like,
pastor.
oh my God.
And I'm like, eesh.
Oh man.
This is not the way to
I'm
go
like,
about
dude,
this, homie.
just make a nice bio and have a nice picture. That's just like, I did get one match so
Yeah.
far. I've gotten a decent amount of likes. I don't know how active. I don't know how like busy that website is. I think there's a few Adventist single dating websites. The one I'm on, there's a lot of cute girls on there from all over, so that's good. One of the girls I did match, I think she's kind of cute, but
yeah.
But
I
what?
haven't said anything yet. I don't know if I should.
Why not?
That's what I told him. I'm like, why would you be on there if you're not actively going to pursue?
Well-
unless you just want to take a look at the field and scout, which,
Are you just window shopping?
yeah.
No, I'm not that type of guy. I don't know. There's one thing that she's kind of differing on. Like me and her, like according to her profile, she has differing political views, which is funny. Because
Which is
that's
important.
Well, that's one of the things I think we're going to talk about this season.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, I mean, I don't want that to be like a deal breaker, but
But also, don't give yourself, don't answer the question yourself. Like, you never know what she's like.
yeah. But you know me, like I'm very upfront. Like I wear my
Heart on your
views
sleeve?
on my sleeve. I don't really hide what I believe. And so
What are you?
Not that you should.
Yeah, you shouldn't.
But I mean, there was a point where I think I was, a little bit too much. But I mean, I still, I have no problem talking about my, point of views and stuff like that. And I've had good discussions with people from, differing views and stuff. I don't even know. I don't think that would be a problem. I just really haven't just talked to her, I guess. Maybe I should. I don't know.
No, yeah. Abby, have you ever been? I mean, I think at this
I've been
point,
on this app. Yes, I
think I'm
have.
the only one who hasn't been on Adventist dating yet.
I still have my profile there, and I always get a notification.
Oh, yeah, I was on.
Someone
I've
liked
been on
your
Tinder,
someone
I've been
liked
on
your
Bumble.
profile, and
I think I'm the only one who hasn't tried online dating here.
I
I don't know what to think of it.
I went
Go
on
for it.
Bumble. I went on the other Christian one, Upward.
Christian Mingle. Oh,
Upward?
Yeah,
Who's been on
that was
eHarmony?
where this girl met her guy.
I think she said it had an Adventist setting on it.
No, he is just Adventist. There's no Adventist setting on it.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been balking at the prospect of doing that because
There's some very
because
successful.
the thing is I don't want to
You want to meet someone
start
else.
something
Yeah.
and then drop it and then
But it's
hurt
easy-
a girl and then
I mean,
That
it
doesn't make any sense.
It's easier to drop something, I think, online because.
It's
if
on
you
yeah,
Right.
but I
haven't-
don't want to
if you
get in the
haven't met
habit
them.
of
Yeah.
like dropping something I'm not
Well,
ready
I
to
know,
start.
don't do that, but I'm saying like,
I
if
mean,
you do
that's-
drop it, trust me, you're not the only guys you're talking to, especially if she's cute. So
Yeah,
Don't
sure.
feel- don't
I
feel
mean,
bad. Just
I mean,
like,
it goes
she's got
both,
other guys.
But, we'll talk about that later. So another topic we talked about last season and last year was that on mental health. And, we talked about that we focused on, dealing with the personal stuff, dealing with the things that happened to us, from friends and families, and also regarding our past. We talked about, in each of those three areas, how we detect our behaviors, detect the triggers, and then how to deal with them. And what's interesting was, that one we knew had to be a two-parter just because there's so much content there and so much that needed to be said. And, there was a lot that was cut out too. But those two were our most listened to episodes.
Were they
by
really?
far? Yeah.
Interesting.
I think people really need, or maybe our listeners just really connected with that, and how just, I guess, no one has really presented to them that way, maybe, or something. But it was definitely one of our most listened to. It was, those two were our most listened to episodes by far.
I think, we're not professionals, in this by any means, but, it is, I guess nice to hear something from, someone's perspective who, is the same, like on the same playing field as you when it comes to, how we deal or understand mental health, because I think that's important. It would be good to have, actual, mental health professional or psychiatrist or psychologist.
And we will.
In the church. And we will. We have talked about that. But, it was also nice to just talk about things amongst ourselves. And we, share a lot of the same experiences. I think, we all deal with stress and fears and things like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of us have to do, we all have to go through the same amount of work. It's not like we're ahead of the curve or anything. I guess the things that we put out there were things that
just from our experience.
I guess, like the work that we've done, things that we've recognized that we're putting out there to make sure that others, make sure that they do that too. Would you say that in regards to your mental health and your preparation for dating, do you feel like you're in a good space right now? Do you feel like you could do some work? Or,
you can always do work.
Yeah.
There's not a time in life where you should ever feel like I'm good. Especially as a Christian.
It's true.
There's always more to attain to. But like I said, whoever wants to come in, just come in. We'll figure it out.
Well, you have to open the door.
My door is open. It's not closed.
His door is open. You heard it here first.
His DMs are
whatever
open.
happens.
It's true.
I think that it's not perfect, my mental health, because none of us are perfect.
Right.
But it's good enough to proceed forward.
That's a good place to be, because no one's, like I said, no one's going to be
famous
perfect.
Last words. No, just kidding.
We also talked about last season about the logistical realities of dating and how, actual like dating and meeting people takes time. It takes money for the fellas and
for the women.
And for the women,
though, to a lesser extent, get their dress,
things like that,
makeup.
That's another discussion for another time. But
Y'all don't know.
That's what you said, though. Isn't that what
yeah,
you said?
yeah.
I was just going to what you said.
You guys just like disregard it like it's nothing.
No, I'm just joking.
Esmerna,
I know.
You can spend money on stuff to make you look pretty. That's going to last you more than a night. Dating money to go out on a date is one and done. You cannot compare the two.
Moving on.
No, I mean, I could get where she's coming from because y'all know me. I'm very frugal when it comes to my clothes. So I don't really, I buy clothes, but I'm not gonna be like in Gucci or
Michael. What's funny?
Anything like that. What?
I think your mom buys you more clothes than you buy clothes.
I mean, I like when she buys clothes. My mom's stylish.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just an interesting.
She's your personal stylist.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Unpaid, sadly, but
I pay her in love.
That's right. Doc, last season we also talked about the role and the importance of friends and how, statistics show that you date somebody more often than you date somebody, you just met, or that you just, riz up or, just kind of meet on the street or something. And we also talked about how, like, in Adventism, that's especially true, I should say, because it's a super small world. So like I can go to California and meet somebody who knows Abby, or, I mean, this just happened all the time, where I used to be known as Chris's brother instead of by Josue. And that just goes to show that, It's, you know, who you know, you leave an impression on people, and that the circle is a lot smaller than you think, is what I'm trying to say, like in Adventism. So you got to have friends, and you got to have the good kind of friends, so that they can recommend you to the people that, you know, would be best for you, I think.
Or, you know, just continue to do the Lord's work. We listened to, and you guys haven't heard it yet, but we listened to Zach Payne's testimony, and he found his wife once he decided, you know what, I'm just going to commit to being a pastor. I'm leaving Tennessee, where there's a lot more options. I'm going to go to this state, Wisconsin, where I don't know anybody. There's like maybe a small handful of options for me, but you know, I'm going to just go and do the Lord's work. And lo and behold, he found his wife, because she would show up and wanted to do ministry too.
Find someone who shows up.
Yeah,
that's an interesting.
And as a pastor, you know, I'm sure that is like perfect match. Honestly, if there could be a thing, find a wife who is as active in ministry as you are.
Yeah.
That's kind of what
even more
that would
maybe
be
even
ideal
more
for sure.
active.
And then I think the last episode we talked about spiritual preparation, how you have to get your heart in the right place, because you can do a lot of the internal work. You can get the money, you can get the friends, you can get the preparation, but if you don't really put it in the hands of Jesus, you're not really going to go anywhere, or as far as you think you can go. We also mentioned how unequally yoked applies to also in the church. You know, not everyone who calls themselves a Seventh-day Adventist is the same, right? Not everybody who does that loves Jesus as much as you do. So, you know, you want to pursue Jesus as fast as you can, and then hook up with somebody who keeps up with you, you know?
We also made the point that, you know, when you start to walk closer with God, get closer to him, and have that change, you know, your not your expectation. Well, your expectations too, but like, you know, your likes and desires also change with that too. So,
yeah,
you know, some of the girls that you may have been interested in before, you know, while you were on the broad path, you know, and while you were struggling maybe in those relationships, you know, once you walk closer to God, your likes and desires are going to change as well. And so you may not be looking so much on the surface, because, you know, a lot of the dating world is purely physical. It's purely, you know, what do my eyes see,
especially for guys,
on the surface. Yeah. And, you know, we know that God sees with, you know, he sees the heart. He doesn't look with the eyes of man, is what he says. And so, you know, I was like, maybe that's something that I need to realize in myself. Like, maybe, because, you know, I admitted last season, I was like, there's girls here that I'm sure are good. You know, I've just, for some reason, seem to be chasing forbidden fruit. Maybe that's why I haven't tied the knot yet. So, the things to consider.
It's true. How is your spirituality right now, would you say? On a scale of 1 to the Apostle Paul?
1 to the Apostle Paul.
0.
I would say I'm probably at like a solid cinco, like a solid 5 currently. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm scared to put a number on it.
Me too. I don't know what I would be.
I'm scared.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's a work in progress. It's never going to be a 10, I'll tell you that much. And if it's...
Nah, don't say that. Don't say that. You never know.
A 10, dog.
I said to the Apostle Paul, not a 10.
Oh, it was Apostle Paul. I thought
I'm pretty sure
10.
he called himself the chief of sinners. So if you're the chief of sinners, I'm pretty sure you're in good company.
You're a 10.
I ain't writing the Bible's books, though. I ain't writing
the Bible's already written.
I know great controversies.
No.
I'm not receiving visions. What's going on?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Maybe. You never know.
Well, you know what Joel said. Your young men and your young women will dream dreams. To be honest, like just on the low, I feel like I'd want to be part of that group.
To be what?
Be part of. Yeah, I want to see visions.
I want to see visions too, man.
Cool. Remember, like it's not just like this is cool. Like this is a responsibility now. Like now you got to tell people.
Oh, of course, because
like this is heavy.
Mm-hmm, because Jesus is gonna send you some crazy stuff that you're gonna have to say.
Yeah,
and people are gonna be like, "What?"
So it's like kind of like a be careful what you wish for
crazy.
Situation.
Yeah,
because then you could get a mission like Jonah.
Right,
it's true.
Sent to somewhere vile and terrible. And
yeah.
Or he's like, I need you to pack up and leave everything right now.
And just go.
Go to Detroit.
Compton.
Yeah, go to Compton.
Good old Cali.
North side of Milwaukee. Let's not go too far.
But yeah, That was season 1. I think we covered a lot of ground last season. But this season, I think we're going to change gears like all the way to topics and discussions that more closely are related to dating, to like normal practices that happen in dating, to the big issues that are currently in dating, common pitfalls, etc., things like that. Thinking just broadly, now that we're going to, change gears and actually, that we've talked about the individual, now we can talk about putting the individual in the dating scene. And like I said, broadly speaking, what are some topics and conversations that just need to be had? Just think broadly. Go as wild and as big as you can.
Non-negotiables.
Non-negotiables is a good one.
Dating, and this, I think, specifically in like, I don't know, I see this a lot where we live, just dating, interacting with people of different races and things like that. There's, in our conference, in the Wisconsin conference, and I don't want to call it the Wisconsin conference, like we have like actually 2 conferences that work in this state. Lake Region Conference and the Wisconsin Conference. Lake Region's kind of like, I guess, the black conference. But they have a church in Milwaukee. And Wisconsin Conference, we have 2 churches in Milwaukee, and yet we don't see them at all. So I'm just like, there seems to be
a divide somewhere.
Yeah. I don't want to say there's racism, but it's just, I don't know what's going on there. So maybe talking about that, in terms of dating, I think is interesting.
I think another discussion would be age differences. I think that's a good one to have.
7 plus half your age.
For guys, that's what they say.
That's the rule.
Yeah. So for you, it would be what? You're 27. So half of 27.
That's 20. It's as young as I can go, everyone. Sorry. Or does it work? Does it work both ways too?
I don't do math that fast.
No. For women, it's
no. Like if I were to date a 35-year-old or 34-year-old.
Oh no. So we're talking about the minimum.
Oh, it can't be the max.
I mean, you can go.
I don't know if the max.
I mean, I would go up.
For women, of course. But what other topics do you feel like need to be had, or other conversations or something? I think the topic on homosexuality and the LGBTQ community, and how that plays into Christian and Adventist dating. Somebody who's part of that community, somebody who's just encountering that community for the first time.
Yeah.
That's a conversation that needs to be had. What else?
Definitely conversations on intimacy.
On intimacy, that's real.
What's too far?
What do you
What's
mean
too
by
close?
that? I don't know, man. Like, can you kiss your girlfriend? Like,
pause.
Can you?
How is that ever a no?
Some people would disagree. I'm not saying I disagree, but I know couples, and I respect these couples a ton. I know couples who never kissed until they got married.
I've heard
literally
of those
on their
too.
wedding day.
Was your
I think
first
that's
kiss?
beautiful, honestly.
Really?
I think it's a personal choice.
Yeah, but I think it's great. But
Would
I'm
you do that?
not saying I would do it, but
Okay, putting on the spot.
but
Would you do
I
it?
could respect it because
Would you do it?
Huh?
If she says
if
that's
my girlfriend
what
wants to do it, then I'll be down.
Okay.
Like, I'm not gonna force my way. I'd be like, we need to get married tomorrow.
So you wouldn't force it, but you would move up the
I like, all
timeline.
right, let's get engaged.
It's like
It's gonna be
here's
very
the deal.
hard.
We won't do it, but we get married 4 weeks from now.
Exactly. That's how it was in the Bible times. They never, like, in Bible times,
There was no dating.
there was no dating. There was an engagement, but it wasn't like, no dating, and you couldn't see your wife. You
But
couldn't
that was-
see the girl
Yeah,
that you were
that's
gonna
true.
marry. Like it was like.
But those are different
No.
times,
I
you
know.
know? Like,
But I mean, hey, marriages, they were more successful back then, so maybe
Were
they
they
were doing something
successful,
right. Yeah, I think so. I mean, there were still like problems. There were still cheating and stuff going on, but I feel like
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But I
Were
feel
they
like-
successful, or they just didn't divorce because of necessity. Two
Yeah,
different things.
That's
Exactly.
a conversation that
Exactly.
needs to be had.
that's the point.
But circling back, what other ones? I think we should talk about stereotypes, how women and men are held to different standards in terms of a lot of things. I think we should talk about gender roles and how that
Yeah.
plays into dating and expectations and the people who you choose. What else?
How fast is too fast when it comes to dating? Like, what's the timeline?
Yeah.
What's acceptable? What's not acceptable?
Yeah, because we know a couple who literally met each other the same year and got married. I know
Same
people
here.
who've done that. Literally met each other online and started dating, like put themselves out there as boyfriend and girlfriend, like within a couple weeks.
Wow.
Okay,
And
so
then
I get
by
that.
like the end of the season, like literally spring, they were engaged and then they were married.
Wow.
I know you from it's kind of all the same family actually, but they like I know the same. I know a couple of that same family. They literally got dating, engaged. I think the engagement period was like a week. It was
Engagement was only a week.
Abby,
something like that. Yeah,
those were no kiss type family.
I don't know if they didn't kiss. I don't know if they didn't kiss, and I know for certain the other one didn't. Or did no that the other one did.
Okay.
But they just they didn't want to wait around. I get that. I don't want to wait around either.
But
One
there's
thing-
an important thing to waiting.
If you know you're gonna marry this person, just go. I ain't got a problem with that.
I guess that's
It's the period before you say I want to marry you. That's the hard part.
I guess.
What other topics? I feel like we should talk about friend zones.
No,
We should talk
there's a lot
about
to be
nice
said there.
guys.
I don't want to go.
Yes.
Nice guys.
painful.
I think that's the worst label to ever have somebody put on a guy. Oh, he's a nice guy. That would drive me nuts.
Yeah, but I think it's a bad term.
I agree.
Because being nice is a good thing.
Yeah, but it's kind of like a backhanded compliment.
Yeah.
Depends on the girl.
I've never seen it placed in like a.
If you know a nice Christian girl says, "Oh yeah, he's a
Okay,
nice guy."
see, so that's different.
That's what I'm saying.
When it comes to a girl, that's a good thing. Oh, she's a nice Christian girl. But when it's a guy,
No, I'm saying
that
if
is
a nice
no-go.
Christian girl is telling you you're a nice guy,
no, I
or
still
like
nah.
I think it depends
if they're
the person.
because you know how the parents are going to be like, "Oh yeah, he's a nice guy," you know that's what you want. I feel like, but it depends on like the girl. If you're coming from like a girl who probably dated around.
Yeah.
I think
know.
it depends
She might
the
look at
person.
that differently.
Depends the girl who says it. Because if you
And the tonality,
And yeah.
how well
Yeah.
you know
Yeah,
her.
exactly.
But but generally speaking, I feel it's a no-go in my opinion. But I think another topic that is dating for fun. Okay. So for example, I'm not really looking to get married at this very moment, but I enjoy female company. The company of a woman.
You see, I think you have
So-
to define
so-
what dating is then.
Right.
you can always pay for company.
Because I mean, if you're just if you're just going out to eat, fine. If y'all just kind of hang out, then you're just friends. But if you're talking about like dating, being a boyfriend, girlfriend with no intentions, outside of that, you're not going to marry this person. Honestly, that's kind of
Yeah, but I feel like the type of company Josh wants is the type of company that you have to date for. Am I wrong?
dating for fun. It's only about really one thing.
Well, it's hard to explain. I don't know. I mean, you just want somebody to connect with, right? Whereas,
in what way?
save that question for later. But what about as an Adventist dating multiple people at the same time? It's because we can't treat dating as like an engagement period, but we before you are committed. Does that make sense? So it's like if I meet a girl and she's cute and I ask for her number, and then I travel and I meet another girl who's cute and she asks for my number, am I supposed to be like, no, I'm already committed to this girl, I asked her number?
No, you don't.
I'm not
I don't
talking
think
about
so.
that. When you say dating for fun, there's like an exclusivity to that.
No, but I'm talking about multiple people at this point.
At the same time, getting to know different people.
Well, that's what I
at
say.
the
You have to
same time.
you have to define what dating is. Are you just talking about hanging out as a friend, or is
Well, that's another thing that we need to talk about.
Because this is the thing. If you're dating for fun, and this is the worldly view. It's not just about going out to the movies.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's about going home.
Yes.
Yes.
About a
Okay.
nightcap.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
But for example, if I wanted to
There's
do
really
that-
no point
So
if
for
you're not gonna
example,
do that.
So if I meet a girl on the street, let's call her Matilda, and Matilda and I just hit it off, and I asked for her number. As an Adventist, would it be wrong of me to want to hang out with her, to take her to a movie?
No, I-
But again, we hit it off. So it's not like the chemistry isn't there. It's not like
do you tell her we should date?
what?
I said, do you tell her hey, let's date, let's go, let's
go
let's
out.
be boyfriend,
No.
girlfriend.
That's being exclusive. When I mean dating, I'm specifically talking to just getting to know someone.
Okay, well then there's no.
Let's go out.
Yeah.
But that just goes.
I think you have to say
I think
sorry,
wrong
man.
is the wrong term. It's more of what is your standard when it comes to that multiple dating thing? Because
And is there
for
a Bible
example,
standard,
If
or-
you want a girl that's Adventist and Matilda's not Adventist,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Barking up the wrong tree.
But again,
Hoping she converts.
that's a discussion that needs to be had.
Yeah.
And we're not going to have it now, but the last thing I'll say about that is like there is something about having a woman as a friend that gives you certain skills that you can't get otherwise that your future girlfriend will enjoy. And I'm not talking about the physical part.
No, he's talking about domestication.
Domestication? Domestication? You just pulled that out of nowhere. What?
Like, I don't know. It's just how I feel like, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, but when guys have girls as friends, they are more.
They tend to bring a tenderness to.
Exactly.
To your rugged
That's
edges.
what I meant by domestication.
Okay.
That's what I
very
meant.
funny.
I mean, if you're only hanging out with girls, yeah. We know there's guys that the majority of their friends are girls.
Yes.
I know how those guys are.
Yes.
But I mean, there was a minute there for a while where I had like most of the people I were talking to, and this is just because I was in school. Most of the people that I would talk to on a daily basis were
Or
girls.
girls, because there's more girls in school.
But I was in the military, so I'd still go back with the guys,
Yeah.
work out. I didn't get soft on the edges, but it was actually nice though.
Isn't
It
it?
is nice.
It is nice.
Of course it's nice. There's a reason we're attracted to women, Michael, apart from the from the way they look. It's there's just something about them that is nice to be around. But there's like a million other topics. Like, for example, dating somebody who's never dated before. That's something that needs to be talked about versus dating somebody who has. I feel like there's certain expectations and some things you have to teach the person who's never dated before that person has to be open to.
See, I don't like that either.
Okay.
Like why do I have to submit to what your expectations for dating are?
Not necessarily yours, but
Well,
you
you're
have
saying the person has to teach
but
them.
there are some ground rules and some expectations that, like, for example, if you're dating someone, you can't just go no contact.
Well, that's obvious.
To you,
Well, any friend, you can't just be like no contact.
Yeah.
yes, you
But-
can.
Well,
Michael,
for guys,
but before we lived together, if I didn't reach out to you, I probably wouldn't hear from you for like a month or two, and that's normal.
but that's just normal for
and
you
I have
guys.
a normal and like I have a guy friend,
But I think that's
who I was talking to, and I haven't spoken to him in like 4 months.
But I think most people would understand, like, yeah, if I have a girlfriend now, like, we're going to be spending most of our time with each other. Most of the free time, at least, that we have with each other. And
I think guys that have never dated before would have more of a challenge with that, whereas girls
It's
that
easier.
never dated before, that would be easier because it is expected. Communication is expected with
yeah, but I think that's
friendships.
just in
Yes.
general. I think guys
And
we
women
struggle.
expect leadership, so if the guy doesn't know how to lead in that way,
But guys in general struggle with
And, like-
communication, though.
Yes. Exactly.
And for example, like you were saying, or how Abby was saying, how far is too far? Somebody who's dated knows how to set the pace.
or
Knows how
Or
to.
there's just conversations
If you know
have to have
if you know the
together.
word of God, you
That's
got
true.
it figured out already.
That's true. Like,
Yeah, but I mean, and I'm not only talking about physical. Like for example, if you started dating a girl tomorrow, how soon would you hold hands?
Immediately.
Okay, see, that's weird to me.
It doesn't matter.
I think
It's if she's cool with it, then fine. But see, that's you though.
But I have dating experience.
With your
how
girlfriend.
soon would you hold a girl's hand?
Depends on the vibes, but I wouldn't do it immediately.
But that's your girl.
How about if you get good vibes on the first date?
That's what I'm saying. Maybe that was your girl. She's from a different country. It's different.
Okay, so if we have good vibes on the first date,
Yeah.
sure. But like,
Well,
I
like-
have a feeling that some people would like misunderstand that and would just want to like, how often do I hold their hand? Is it all the time? Like do we walk to and fro?
I feel like-
do I have to open the car for her the door to the car for her all the time?
I feel like-
do I buy flowers on every day? Like just a lot of
each-
things you just know if you've dated that if you haven't.
But
that,
each
that
relationship,
just-
each relationship is different, though.
I
you know,
agree,
like
yeah.
I don't feel like there's just like one set rule that you have to follow, and this is going to be successful. Like,
Fair enough.
Like everybody's different. Some girls may want that. Some girls may not. I think you just got to communicate with.
But I
whoever you're
would say
dating
that
with.
there is an advantage if you have dated before, personally.
Yeah,
There's
there
advantages
was, there
and
would say,
disadvantages
yeah, there is.
to everything.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it all comes down to natural pace. What's a natural pace for you? What's a natural pace for us? And that looks different
Right.
for everybody.
And that requires a whole lot of communication that needs to be had and that you can't be afraid of having.
Because I feel like a lot of the times we're in our head of like, oh, that's too soon. Oh, I can't say that yet. Like, you know, and then that like we start filtering ourselves and
Right.
and it's just like maybe, and then she's doing that too. And then.
Yeah. Or because you've had a lot of relationships and they've all failed, obviously, because you're with me now, you could bring that baggage. And so now you're like walking on eggshells, like, oh man, is this the right thing to say? When the guy really doesn't care, or the girl really doesn't care if she's never dated, you know?
So like some other topics that we're going to get to later, but there's just a whole lot. Like, so I made a list here. Like, this is just rapid fire. Ready? So like, what about guys who are players in the church? You know, like pastors' kids, for example.
Just putting everybody out there.
I am. What about like online dating for like a Christian and an Adventist thing? What about like, you know, the double standard of like, you know, when men get older, they're reaching their prime, but when women get older, you know, they're getting out of their prime. You know,
Well, there's
And how
obvious
we should
reasons
not
for that,
have that.
but
right. But that's a conversation.
Childbearing, yeah. But, yeah,
We should also have the conversation about, you know, women pursuing the guy, which is not often had. We should, you know, talk about like flirting in the church. What does that look like? Is there a place and a time in church to have to do that or not?
during church service, like when the pastor's preaching?
Like,
or are you talking about like just...
Yes.
like, for example, if you only see a girl like on Sabbath, is it okay to ask her out on Sabbath?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
God made
But
a
it's-
marriage.
We do that
out of
all the
Sabbath.
time.
It sounds weird to say. You know
We'd
what I'm
be
saying?
Like, yeah, when we're
We
watching the
make
game tonight.
plans on
No.
Saturday
I
for
don't-
different stuff.
that bothers me actually.
What?
I know we shouldn't
Like
do that.
talking about like sports
I
on
know
Saturdays.
we shouldn't do that, but I'm saying
Yeah.
we do it.
I mean, we don't go to the same church, so we don't do it. But
No, like on Sabbath though, like, you know, when we're here.
yeah, and then just a couple more. Like, is the talking stage exclusive or no? We talked a little bit about that. Should you keep your options open while you're dating? What does timing look like? Does social attractiveness matter?
Can you cheat even if you're not married? According to the Bible, is it still adultery?
Is it still adultery?
That's a funny question.
And then like some other ones I have here are like, you know, looking at somebody for who they are versus who like the reality of who they are versus the potential of who they could be. Again, that's just a very basic list of topics that we're going to cover this season and moving forward. So I'm pretty excited about the conversations that we're going to have this season, I guess is what I'm saying. But specifically this season, I think we should start with the most basic of topics, set the scene for the more difficult ones, like, you know, dating divorced people, dating single parents. You know, those need a little bit more of a basis. And, you know, I've been having some conversation with friends, with people that we know, and some other young adults who have been posing questions that, you know, have kind of led to our, I guess, our roster for this season. And, you know, that oftentimes, like when they like say or ask me a question, the answers to me are like blatantly and like stupidly obvious, but I guess it's not to everybody. The fact that it isn't common knowledge, you know, needs to, what do you call it? Needs to be had. Have you guys experienced that at all? Like when somebody's talking to you about dating, you're like, how is this even a question?
I mean, I've experienced it because I obviously know a lot due to my education, and I'm always reading books and stuff. I have to remind myself that, you know, not everybody does what I do. 'Cause
Right.
in order to know stuff, you actually have to actually search for it.
Right. You have to be
And
purposeful.
if you're not doing that, like, I can't look down on you for that. And I have to remind myself, like, you know, that they have something to offer too. That even though they don't know this part, that's okay. Like,
That's
it's
a good
just
point.
It's a learning curve. Like, it doesn't make me better than them or anything like that. It's just something they haven't encountered in life yet, and that's okay.
Yeah, no, for me, it usually happens when I interact with like non-Christian people. And sometimes I have to like remember, like, yeah, their standards and their thinking is different from mine. Not saying, you know, that I'm better than them, but just we as Christians, you know, we aspire to do things in a Christ-like manner because, you know, that's how we've been raised, that's how we've been taught. And so when you're interacting with people who haven't, you know, been raised that way or
Right.
coming from a different lifestyle, you know, sometimes it's kind of shocking. And I'm just like, wow, I didn't
Never
know
seen
people
it
were
that way.
actually doing that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
or like, you know, they say things. I'm just like, no, that's wild. That's
Yeah.
crazy, you know? And so I have to remember myself or tell
Remind
myself like,
yourself.
okay, you know, they obviously, you know, they're
Different set of
Christian. I can't judge
values
them, you know, the
based
same
on your own
way,
standards.
you know, based on what I know from the Bible. So
Yeah. So effectively, this season's going to build up on like the last season, in the scope and theme, pretty much. So what that means is like that once you have an internal look upon yourselves, these are practically the questions and the things that you kind of ask yourself, if that makes sense. So I want to go through different topics and different themes. A lot of the ones that we're going to tackle, we actually mentioned earlier as like conversations that needed to be had. So this season specifically, we're going to talk about how I categorize it, or its theme is, as we're entering the dating arena with purpose and direction. So, we're going to talk about what that means to date purposefully. I think I want to talk about, who we should date. What else, Abby, are we going to talk about?
How do you get to know somebody?
I think that's a good one because I don't think it's talked about a lot. Like, what should I know about this person?
Mm-hmm. I was actually reading a book. I'm writing a book right now.
You're writing a book?
No, no. I'm reading a book. It's called How Not to End Up Alone.
That's an interesting title.
Yeah, she's actually, she used to work for Hinge, and she came up with whatever. I forgot. Anyway, it's pretty good so far. She talks about how love can maybe be innate, something like, that we crave, but like dating itself, it's an ability you have to learn, and you have to be purposeful about it. So like getting to know somebody, just like making friends, it's like you have to learn it.
Mm-hmm. Try to talk to them. That's one of the things you get good at. Well, you should be getting good at, especially in, when you work in the ambulance and EMS. Not just with the patients, but that's the whole art, because you got to get like super deep. You got to ask them questions that they don't even know they should even tell you, because they'll tell you stuff that's wrong with them, or why they're, why they called you, or what their problem is. But then, there's other questions that if you don't ask them, they're not even going to tell you. And they're like important stuff that we have to know.
Give me an example of that.
Like if someone calls for, let's see.
What was the last thing you ate?
Yeah, let's use like someone says my stomach, I feel nauseous, I've been throwing up all day, and I'm like, okay, so that's their chief complaint or concern. But then they might forget to tell us like, oh yeah, actually I have COVID or something like that, right? Or like some other disease, or they have a medical history that is like that could like be potentially causing that, but they won't tell you that unless you ask, and that's like something important. Or someone's like, oh, I feel dizzy, I don't know what's causing it, and then if we don't ask like, okay, are you diabetic or something like that, then they're like, oh yeah, I'm diabetic, I have to take insulin and stuff like that.
And you're like,
so
why didn't you say that?
That could be, it may not, but it's something we should definitely know.
Yeah.
So you learn how to talk to people, and then even if with your partners, the shift can be so long and miserable if your partner is just like constantly on their phone, or because we spend a lot of time just driving to places, or just sitting at the station sometimes, usually more just driving places. But yeah, if your partner is just like constantly on their phone, not giving you attention, not talking, it makes the shift so long, miserable. Or if they're just talking about stuff that's just like not interesting.
I'm sorry, buddy.
I'm usually able to, but I'm really good at like really know how to like talk to people, and like even if there's stuff that I'm just like not really vibing with them on, I can like bring up a topic that we both like will have interest in, and then that helps a lot talking in my job.
I think another topic that we want to tackle this season is dating Christians versus dating somebody who's not a Christian versus dating an Adventist. There's a difference between somebody who's a Christian and somebody who's an Adventist. Christian. I mean, we're both Christians, right? But there's an Adventist Christian. I think I want to have that conversation because I feel like there are some people who may not agree that, dating somebody who is a Christian is probably not, is frowned upon as an Adventist. And then what I always tell them is like, there may be some Christians with more Christ in them than some Adventists who have Advent in them.
There's a lot of non-Christians with more Christ in them.
Right.
They don't even realize it.
And then the conversation is, well, do you want to marry somebody who has a title or somebody who has Christ?
Exactly.
So that's a good conversation that I think we should have.
I think another important theme that we got to talk about, and it's probably going to get heated up in here, is gender roles.
It's an interesting one.
And like how everybody has a different picture of what each gender should be. And
in terms of roles.
In terms of role. And it's just like standards and all that stuff. So it's going to be interesting seeing.
I think double standards would be a good one there too, to talk about that. Because, in terms of roles, like, somebody taking care of the house, but then if the guy's staying home, it's like, I still want her to do it. there's a double standard
which
there.
is
They actually find out
totally-
that, and there's been articles more recently, and we even talked about this in my sociology class. So they find out that women actually, they're not only expected to work, but also like do most of the work at home as well.
Yeah,
Which
that's
is-
the
and
conversation
so-
we need to have.
It's terrible.
It leads a lot of stress and women feeling overworked.
Yeah.
Yeah, continuing on with the gender thing, I think homosexuality is a big topic. It's kind
Yes,
of
it is.
taboo.
That's a
in
good one we
the
should
Adventist
tackle
church.
this season.
Well, yeah, that's something we're definitely want to do this season. There's a big disconnect between people who are heterosexual and in the church and like homosexuality, and I think that's created a lot of
Tension, for sure.
tension, but if you just don't know a lot, and these are still people that, according to statistics that I've already looked at, half of people who are homosexual want to have a relationship with Christ, or are religious. And among those groups of people who are religious and the homosexual LGBTQ community, I think like more than half are Christian. And so as like Christians, how do we approach that? Is it something we should even approach? I think those are good questions.
And like how to
have.
reconcile the two, right?
Yeah, how to reconcile, because one of the things that we're seeing in the LGBTQ community is, especially amongst young adults, is they are much more likely to be depressed and even kill themselves. The
Die
rates
by
of suicide are very high.
It's
and
rough.
that's not something we want, obviously. That's like, especially if we're trying to reach everyone, that is the worst outcome we could want for, regardless of what your beliefs are about homosexual, relationships and stuff. We don't want that. So like, what do we do as a church? What do we do as individuals to, reach them and stuff like that?
And that's important to talk about because we're called to be ambassadors for Christ. And as ambassadors, we need to be well versed in lots of these topics.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of the times in Adventism, it's a lot of these topics are like black and white. And I mean, the Bible is black and white about
it's like,
all of
this
these
is right,
things.
this
But
is
it's
wrong.
like the world is not black and white. It's more of like
there's a lot of gray issues.
Exactly.
That,
But
I
we need
think
to learn
are
how to
like,
communicate that
how to communicate
in a way that
it
doesn't alienate.
in a way that doesn't alienate, but
Yeah.
at the same time that upholds God's law.
Yeah.
Right.
One of the, and I'll say this and then we'll move on. Like one of the interesting things, that studies have shown is that young adults, people who are, in the church, they found that there is a positive correlation to mental health when you're, religious, when you believe in God, when you're
Interesting.
Christian and stuff
Yep,
like that.
yep.
Yeah, there's a positive outcome. However, when you put homosexuals in that group, there is no positive outcome. There's no there's no
Wow.
negative either, but it's just kind of like there's really no difference. There's no correlation, which is kind of bad because usually, if you're
It's a net
if
negative
you're
effect.
trying to come closer to Christ, I mean, there's things that are, going to be difficult at first, but eventually, you're going to come to a better mental outlook. And we kind of talked about that in the first season. But unfortunately, we're not seeing that with the LGBTQ community. And so it's just like, is that, like something we should be concerned with, something we should be trying to work on, reach out to them about that. And so definitely an important topic. Because it's growing. Six is a show. It is growing. And so we can't avoid it. It's
And we're going to have a
unavoidable.
guest for that one.
It'll be great. Pray for that one.
Absolutely. I think another one that we should tackle this season that I think is going to be good is one on rejection, handling rejection and knowing how to reject and, knowing that, if you get rejected, it's not the end of the world and just having that conversation because I feel like a lot of times, especially for guys who are the ones who usually get rejected the most because they're the ones who put themselves out there the most.
Yeah.
Because of the gender roles.
Yeah.
But like also just in general, I feel like guys are not taught as much as women how to deal with emotions, and rejection
Right.
is an emotion.
Yeah.
So
We're
yeah,
taught to,
sure
like,
you might put
hide
yourself
our-
out there, but like if
Well-
you don't know how to deal with your emotions more, if you don't have a support system as much as women, no
Because
wonder you're gonna
that's-
take rejection harder.
Yeah. We're taught to like hide our emotions, not to share them. I've seen my mom cry before and it always hurts me when I see her. But, the one time I saw my dad cry, and I've only seen him cry once. He didn't even cried at his mom's funeral. My dad's kind of been seen as like the tough guy, Yeah, even amongst the teachers, like they always sent the bad kids to my dad's class, not to the principal's office. That's what they
Dang.
threatened the bad kids with. I'm
That's
gonna send you
crazy.
to Mr. Hughes. Michael, I'm gonna send you to your dad. I'm like, oh, send me to the principal's office. They actually say that men are actually more emotional than women a lot of times.
But they
Yeah,
just
because
don't
you don't know
show
how
it.
to manage it.
That too, but I don't
Again, another conversation for another day. Michael, going back to you, I want to have the conversation and I want to make it clear of like, you know how you were talking about how like, you know, you match with a girl on Adventist singles, but then you didn't know what to do, or like you didn't know if you wanted to reach out to her or not. Yeah. I want to talk about like, if you know that somebody likes you and you like this person, what do you do next?
Oh.
Like having a game plan. I feel like that needs to be talked about. Just because you just because two people like each other or you guys like each other doesn't mean that you know what to do. Especially like the young kids and especially somebody who hasn't dated. I feel like getting a game plan and establishing that, it would be something good to have.
Because I've heard this before, like, and I don't know how often this happens, but I've heard of two people liking each other but just not choosing to date because
why?
It's just not the right time.
Okay,
or a girl just doesn't want to like date right now, but she does like you. Like if she was wanting to date, you would be the person. Or
that's weird.
It is weird, but I think that happens sometimes.
And I think it also comes down to sometimes lack of purpose or intention in what you want.
Yeah,
like you're on the dating app, but it's like you don't have a game plan, like you were saying, of like what you're gonna do if someone says hi. Like,
right.
I think too many people are not satisfied with, their partners or, potential dates or whatever. I feel like people are always looking for the next best thing.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, I got this girl. Maybe I can get a better.
Which again,
yeah. And so like, I think that hurts a lot because I think social media has risen that a lot. But you just see so much of people like they're just, even in the relationship they have, they're not satisfied. Yeah. And I'm like, why? She's beautiful. Like, what the hell? Excuse me. What's your problem?
No.
Jesus.
Michael, I think we're going to touch on something you mentioned earlier, which was interracial dating, and the different nuances that come up with that. It's not the same dating a Hispanic girl as dating a white girl or
a black
girl or Native American, Asian, etc., etc. I feel like those conversations need to be had. I don't know. I'm specifically looking forward to that one too.
Yeah, that'd be a great conversation.
Yeah, I'm excited because there's even like a nuance in like a Hispanic who wasn't born here but came here as a child versus somebody who was born here and grew up here and things like that.
Yeah.
There's an entirely different like approach to it, different like culture. This is something that I'm excited to talk about specifically. And then Doc, what are we gonna end the season with?
We're going to end the season with my favorite episode.
Oh my God.
Let's all say it together.
Sexual desires. Come on now. I'm excited for this one, guys. I love talking about sex, okay?
Hide your kids, everyone.
Shut up. No, I'm just looking forward to it because we're going to talk about it from a godly perspective. About like how we all.
Well, then if we talk about it from godly perspective, we shouldn't call the episode "Sexual Desires."
Why not?
We should call it "Getting to Know Them."
No, because
that's the biblical word.
God created our heart to desire, and if we desire to have intimacy,
I was just saying we should,
don't explain the joke, otherwise it kills the whole thing.
Anyway, I just feel like this is a topic that needs to be talked about, and the fact that a lot of the time our knowledge of sex and intimacy comes from social media
and movies and
all that stuff.
Porn.
And I mean, we're not exempt from any of that stuff, but rather it's like, what does the Bible say? Like, right. Like centering it back to God and taking away the taboo, that Christian taboo that we can't talk about sex. And it's like, guys, God created sex. Like,
we got to talk about
this. Like, this should be like our mic drop. Like, we know this.
Agreed. Rapid fire. Mike, which discussion are you looking forward to the most?
Kind of the one on homosexuality, because there's just so much to learn about it, and I think there's a definite need there, and I think I kind of want to like not dispel, because I'm still learning a lot of it, but I kind of want to dispel like maybe or hope to dispel some of the like misconceptions about what the church thinks on homosexuality, and then try to maybe shed light on, to people who may be homosexual about, what the church actually is and what we should be doing and what Jesus says. So I kind of want to like be that hand that,
which is
crosses the aisle and
sure.
brings people over. And but that'll be
That'll be a good one.
I think that's a good.
Hey, Doc, which discussion do you think will be the most tricky?
The most tricky.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be the gender roles because
That is a tricky one.
because there's so many nuances to it, especially now more than ever.
Wait, why now more than ever?
Because there's just different schools of thought when it comes to gender roles. Like you have the whole down with the patriarchy thing.
I think a lot of the gender roles are being blurred now. Like
exactly.
they're not.
So you
There's
got
no
blurring,
defining.
you got down. It's like you got people upholding it,
Yeah.
and then it's like there's some in between. So it's like tricky just to talk about it all because everybody has a different foundation.
Yeah. No, I think so too. I think the one that's bound to have, or at least to get the most discussion, would be the one on sexual desires. I was talking to you guys like off camera earlier how we could have an entire season on sex. Just an entire season where, we talk about pornography, where we talk about masturbation, where we talk about sex in media, where we talk about, just premarital sex. There's just so much we could talk about.
What is sex? Like, is it just like,
right?
Is
it just penetration, to lack of a better term? How far is too far?
Yeah.
And we may have another season on that, but I don't know. We'll just play it by ear and kind of go for fun. But I think that was going to be super important to have. So apart from those themes that we're going to touch on, something else we're doing this season is something that we were trying to do last season, but we just couldn't get around to it. Just timing did not work. Is sharing our personal dating and romantic stories. In other words, how do we know the things that we don't, that we know now? How has experience guided us here? What have we learned? What have we read? How have our dating experiences shaped us and who we are now? We're going to start putting those out there. So starting next week on Thursday, we'll be dropping exclusive content that's, again, a bit more private, a bit more personal, and you can find that on the website. Apart from our interviews, on the website, we're going to be sitting down with some other people and some other young adults from the Milwaukee area and just from other walks of life that we know, and hearing what their dating experiences are like, what their struggles that they're going to, and just their thoughts on the current landscape and things like that. So I'm pretty excited about the extra content. There's also going to be topics and discussions with people that we think that are interesting, that relate to relationships and dating and things like that. It's all for the glory of God, and it's all for a purpose. And that purpose is to educate our young adults on dating, relationships, and sex. So again, that's starting next Thursday, and then it'll be every other Thursday. So 2 times a month at the bare minimum. Some months may have more, some months may have less. But if you want to support the podcast and get more content as a bonus, even if you don't listen to it, you can support us on our website. Again, that's at bearstone.com/the pursuit. That's BAER stone.com/the pursuit. But with that said, we've laid out a whole bunch of topics, a whole bunch of ideas and discussions that are good for having, that we need to have as a body of Christ and as young adults. How can we bring Christ into this season? Abby, what would you say is like a strong way that we can include Christ in this season?
I think a strong way to include Christ in every episode is by having that foundation of what we say based on like the Bible. So knowing what the Bible says and incorporating it in every thought. Like Ty Gibson says, like, he doesn't like the whole thing of spiritual life and like other. It's like every part of our life should be spiritual.
Spiritual in one way or another, yeah.
It's not like we have a spiritual side and a non-spiritual side. Like everything, we need to incorporate God. So if we strive to do that in all of these topics, we're going to do it because we have that foundation in Him.
Yeah, I mean, there is no other way but bringing the Bible into this. And I feel one specific way that we can do it, apart from, making sure that our thoughts are biblically based and whatnot, is to add more prayer than we would normally. Because, we had a little modicum of success last year. The podcast is going, wide, and we're really thankful for that. And I want to make sure that the Holy Spirit can bless it, can bless the discussion, can bless us, because there really is no other way. We can sit here and we can talk the mics off its hinges all night, But unless it really goes with a blessing, I feel like we're doing ourselves a disservice and our listeners a disservice too.
No, I think one way that we can bring God into this season is, we're gonna, have people on the podcast this season. We're gonna, be talking to other young adults about their experiences, and I think it's great to, show that godly dating does exist. And it is successful, and there's actually examples of people in our lives that may not perfect, not saying their dating life is perfect and, they're all the way there with Christ. But, there are people who we know who have gone with that approach of, being intentional, having God be at the center of their relationship, being in ministry together. We've already heard one great story about, how one of our pastors met his wife, simply because he decided to just follow God. And so I think, showing people that apart from what the world is saying, that, you need to do this, you need to do that to, actually have like a good relationship or know someone, like, no, you can follow the biblical guidelines for dating. We see there's examples, right, in our lives today. So I think that's a good,
I love that we're bringing guests, right? Because I think in Proverbs it says, in the company of counsel there's wisdom. But we're bringing people from different walks of life that have something that they've experienced that they can add to the conversation that we can grow from as well.
Exactly.
So it's all God's plan, to come together and just share our experiences.
Yeah. I think this podcast is going to go bigger this season than it has ever before. We definitely need God to bless it, because if all people hear are my words and, my thoughts, we're going to fall flat on our face. So, God's really going to do something. For the glory of
God, not for our glory or our own egos. It's for God.
True that. Cool. I don't know, guys. I'm excited. I hope you are too. For all our listeners, I'm really glad to have you on board. We couldn't have done this without you, and we're really excited. We've put in hours and hours and hours of work to make sure that this season is, the best that we've ever had, and that, we can bring topics and solutions and discussions that may answer some questions that you might have, and can bring light to a pretty dark space. With that said, how about we end with a word of prayer? Okay. Father in heaven, thank you for loving us the way that you do. Father, thank you because you put on our hearts to discuss these topics, and because you've promised to be with us. God, it's not going to be easy, but I pray that you continue your blessings. God, I pray for all the single young adults out there who may be distraught, who may be desperate, who may not know where to look. Father, please remind them that you love them, and that this whole mission of finding someone is to, do your work together, and the blessings that come thereby. Please be with us as we, again, say those words, and as we, say your words that we have throughout the different episodes. And again, we ask for special blessings. Please be also with our guests. Thank you, Jesus, for, again, that love that you have for us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.